You probably miss out on 5 amazing relationships across your life just because you missed the signs that girls were giving you to walk over and talk to them. Never mind all the other hundreds of amazing little interactions that you could have had. My name's Andrew Wilkinson and I run a dating company where I help guys all over the world get into relationships and find their dream girl. And myself, I've approached over 1,000 girls. So what I'm going to do today is break down the 5 signs that you should be getting off your ass and going over because she wants to talk to you. And stay for number 5, right? Because even if you've looked at these kind of lists before, maybe you've seen a couple of these, number 5 will be new to you, and it's the most important, and it's the lesson that I do absolutely everything I can to get across to my clients. So let's kick things off with number 1, and that is eye contact. Seriously, this cannot be clearer that if she's making eye contact with you, she's interested. Girls learn from such an early age growing up not to elicit unwanted attention from men by staring at them, because men will read that as an invitation to go over. So if she's making any kind of prolonged eye contact at you, especially if it's just over a second or two, this is a really clear sign that this doesn't mean that she just instantly wants to jump your bones, but it's a really clear sign that she's kind of interested in you. There's something about you that is calling out to her, so she'd be definitely open to speaking to you to see if that interest continues to grow. I remember this when I was in Bulgaria recently, that I was sat on a bench in a town centre and I was just kind of swiping on my phone. I think I was out approaching girls and I'd just spoken to one. I went back to chatting on WhatsApp to somebody and I looked up and there was this girl that was walking past me with her mum, and we made this very brief lock of eyes, and then she sort of corrected and started looking forward, and I was like, okay, that's interesting. So I sat there and I had the opportunity to do that standard male thing of just kind of shrug it off. But no, I realised what it was. It was like, okay, she's at least somewhat curious about me. So after 10 seconds of telling myself not to be a little bitch and to actually go speak to her, I stood up and sort of 180'd round, and fortunately she'd stopped at a bookstore up the road and was just looking in through the mirror. So I went up and I spoke to her there and then, and literally it was one of the smoothest interactions ever. Her mum was there and she was completely chill about it. She didn't speak English, but from what I could translate, she seemed very chill about the situation. And we got a date, and so I asked her after the date and after everything had gone well if she remembered looking at me, and she said yeah. And she said that she was interested, and part of the reason that she stopped at the bookstore was because she was hoping I would speak to her. Girls are always giving these little signs of interest. So eye contact, I want to hammer home that point. It doesn't mean that, she just wants to sleep with you, but it's at least that she's curious about you, especially if she looks over at you twice. So if you see her, you lock eyes, one of you looks away, and then you see it again, 100%. I have never seen a time when we've locked eyes twice and a girl isn't actually interested. And the thing is, once you've hit that point, kind of like a clock starts, that once she's made it quite clear that she's interested in you, a timer has begun for how attractive you appear to be as a man, for how long it takes you to make a move. The longer it takes, the more you come across as kind of insecure, unsure of yourself, and kind of low agency. So if she looks over at you, especially if she looks twice, that is the instant signal to just go, because the earlier you do it, the more attractive you seem and the more she's willing to engage with you. It gets awkward the longer you extend it. It starts to feel off and she starts to feel unsure about her decision to think whether she was interested in you, because you're not coming over, which either means you're too insecure to approach, or you don't find her attractive, which then she'll interpret that as like, I'm not giving any more signals. This is embarrassing for me. I've been signaling this guy to come over and he's just ignoring that. He might not like me. You know how it is. We're all very egocentric and it's very easy to internalize that as our fault. So this is why girls get quite upset, that they feel like they're sending signals, and when you don't respond, they take that as maybe a sign that you just weren't interested. So fundamentally, the first one is eye contact. The second one, it doubles on top of that. It's a smile. I've had this a few times, that if she smiles at you and just, it's not in a customer service kind of situation, that if you're just walking around the street and you smile and she smiles back, they're open to talking to you. I've framed this video as that. It's like, if a girl shows you this sign, it means she wants to talk to you. That's all I'm saying here. It's like, you're interesting enough that she wants to open up that dialogue. So if she smiles at you, that is 100% a flag to go for it and go speak to her. Okay. Thirdly, got my cheat sheet over here. Touch. This one came for me at a gig and I really failed here. That if a girl is coming into contact with you and it's in any scenario where it isn't absolutely forced that she bumped into you, that's a clear sign, because girls will not want to come into any kind of physical contact with a guy that they're not interested in. Their skin, it's way more sensitive than ours, and it means a lot more, and it makes them feel a lot less safe if they're in contact with someone that they're not interested in. So if they make that, and the example that I use is, I remember I was at a gig, we were listening to music, and it wasn't that packed, yet there was this girl to my side that kept brushing my arm, and I thought she was kind of cute, but I didn't speak to her, because I was being a coward, essentially. And I know if I'd have made that move, she'd have been open and responsive to it. So seeing physical touch as such a clear sign that she would be open to talking to you, and it's one that's overlooked by guys for just how clear of a sign that is. And finally, number 4, proximity. So there's a movie that I really love. Like, I'm a cheesy guy. I actually love rom-coms, and my whole life is relationships, as you can see. So I enjoy watching the movies, and whilst they're not a perfect depiction of real life, there's definitely some overlaps. And there's this one in particular in a movie that's really great, and it's called Before Sunrise. And it's where two people meet and they spend an entire day together, and the idea is that they only have until sunrise together. And they meet on a train that's sort of travelling across Europe. And whilst on the train, a guy is sat there, and then he notices a girl comes to sit across from him, and he decides to be brave enough to speak to her. And then when he speaks to her, one thing goes to another, and they end up spending a day together, and they end up having this really intense romantic relationship. And during that, he reflects back and sort of takes pride in the fact of like, oh yeah, well, this wouldn't have happened if I hadn't have been brave enough to speak to you. But then she refers back to him of, well, how do you know that I didn't just sit next to you or near you, because she sits across, because she wanted him to speak to her. Often girls instigate before a guy even did, just because they put themselves in that proximity. There was a ton of other seats in that carriage she could have she could have sat in, but she picked that one. She picked the one that was near him. And this is where guys can sometimes get confused on a signal. It's like, oh my God, on this packed out train, the girl sat next to me. And it's like, dude, it was the only empty seat. But use a little bit of sort of wisdom and experience here. If a girl is putting herself in proximity to you and opening up that opportunity, take the shot. Say hi. It's really easy just to sort of register how interested someone would be by sending out just like a nod or a hi, because either they're going to really shut down or they're going to open up even more, and you can take reference from the direction that they move how interested they would be. But finally, is the fifth point. And this is the one that I think is most important, that I'd love to get across to every guy out there. The fifth sign she wants you to talk to her is no sign at all. Guys have gotten it into their heads that you need this clear and obvious sign to be allowed to go speak to a girl, when that isn't the case. If you approach in a respectful, gentlemanly manner, nearly 99.999% of people will be open and responsive to that. They will either say hi back but not really take much of an interest, or they'll actually engage with you. This is something I did with a client recently who had it truly in his head that he was not allowed to say hi to someone without having a reason to. So I told him that's simply not the case for me. I've gone onto many a high street and walked over to someone, usually a girl, and just simply said, "Hi, what's your name?" Or, "Hi, you look awesome today." And then just waited to see what their response is. It's like, you don't need the signal to approach if you're approaching like someone who is respectful and a gentleman. There is no international law required to be like, you cannot say hi to anyone anymore. I know it feels like times are different, but if you don't take that shot, you're going to miss out on so many opportunities. The relationship that I'm in at the minute, the girl gave me no sign that I should go speak to her. I saw her up a street and she'd sort of come out of a shop and started walking in the other way. I just sort of jogged and caught up to her and just started a conversation. And if I'd been sat there waiting for, oh, well, when she walked out, she didn't see me 20 yards down the road and give me a sign to like holler to come over. I just took the initiative and I wanted to go see if she was interested in talking, because that's what you're allowed to do. You don't need to be in this incessant loop of, I need 5 signs. She needs to have looked at me twice. She needs to have smiled. She needs to have stood near. You don't need any of that. You just need to be able to go over, say hi, smile, be polite, and see if she wants to engage in a conversation. And that will be the most powerful tool that you can ever learn when it comes to approaching girls. That you don't need all of this. All you need is the courage to go up and simply say hi. So, if that sort of speaks to you, I've got a video on this channel where I break down the last time when I managed to get a date in 2 minutes flat, because I walk through step by step of how I did see a girl and what I said to her and what I did to end up going from just seeing her to talking to her to being on a date in only 2 minutes. So, if you're interested in doing the same, check out this video here and I break down every step of how I did that.